Don't pounce on them when they come through the door at the end of the day. Be very cautious about timing. Really, really important. This video provides 9 tips for improving communication with your partner. If you like it, please click subscribe and notifications so you'll know when our next video comes out. Stay till the end because we also have an excellent resource to recommend. I tend to work with a lot of couples, and one of the things that they come to counseling for is they have a list, usually a long list of things that they want help with. And the top 3 things on their list are finances, communication, and sex. So we're not going to talk about sex or finances today. We're going to dive right into communication. And when people say they need help with communication, what they really mean is that they don't argue well. When Jeff and I were first married, we had this older couple come up to us and they said, "Have you had your first argument yet?" And I thought, what are they even asking that for? Of course. And they claimed to never have ever argued. I don't know how that worked for them, but obviously someone was getting walked on or they just compromised to pieces. I don't know how they did it. And at that point, I didn't have the courage to ask them. What I would like to talk to you today about are some techniques that you can use that are going to help when you get into those tough spots. We are not always going to agree on things. It would be pretty boring if we did. So we're going to have different opinions. It's how we negotiate, how we talk to our partner that's going to make the difference as to whether it becomes a full-blown argument or whether we figure out how we can work this out between the two of us. So the first thing to do is, if we're feeling like upset about something, we're angry, is to take that step back and think, why is it that I'm angry? Why is this bugging me so much? You know, first thing in the morning, you're in the bathroom and you're trying to share the mirror and you're getting really ticked off because they're in your space. You know, stop and think, is that really that big an issue, or is it something else going on? Something that you've got a big meeting coming up this morning. Maybe you didn't sleep well. Maybe one of the children was sick. So we stop and we think, why is this issue a problem? Maybe it really is a problem. Maybe it is an issue that we need to deal with and we need to check with our partner and express what we're feeling. So what we want to do is we want to start with one thing. If we are bringing a whole boatload of complaints to our partner, that's never a good idea. We have to look at what's going on in our relationship and figure out that one thing that we want to talk about. And we stay on that topic. We don't bring up what went on yesterday, the day before, 6 months ago. We stay right on the topic, that one issue that is really, really bothering us and what we need to talk about with our partner. It's always a good idea to decide when we're going to talk about these things. If it's a big issue that we want to discuss with our partner, then make an appointment. Figure out when would be the best time to talk about it together. We want to make sure that we're well fed, we're well hydrated, we're well rested, and there probably aren't going to be too many interruptions. So what we want to do is pick a good time that will be great for us to have that time that we can devote to our partner and to working out whatever the issue is that is causing problems for us. It might be also causing problems for them, but they might not know. So we want to bring it to them in a way that they can receive it. So book that time and figure it out. Don't spring it on them. Don't pounce on them when they come through the door at the end of the day or when you finally get a chance to see them again. Be very cautious about timing. Really, really important. Some of us have more expressive language. we want to be really careful about the language that we use. Be careful not to use hurtful terms or labels. That can damage and cut to the core. You know that old saying about sticks and stones breaking bones, but names can never hurt me? We know that's not true. All of us have felt the sting of words that hurt us terribly. So be really cautious. If we're getting into that zone where our words are causing us to maybe say something that we don't really mean, call a time out. Stop the conversation. It's not going the right place, so we want to decompress. So call a timeout. We'll come back to it later. Remember the rules for timeout. Whoever calls the timeout calls the time back in. Check with your partner and say, would this time work for you? Maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight later. Relax and then come back to it with cooler heads and keep ourselves in that green zone. It's really hard, maybe moving into the yellow zone a little bit. If we think of our stress like a tank, remember we've got the green zone where everything's just going along smoothly, yellow zone where it's getting a little tense, and the red zone is full-blown stress. If it's gone into that red zone, we want to take that time out, decompress, and come back to it later. Being really careful that we do remember to come back to it later. Owning our piece of the problem. Oftentimes, it's really hard to do that. You know, we can see our partner's faults, but it's very difficult to see our own. Taking that step back and being able to see what part did we play, owning our piece. Phrasing things so that our partner is able to receive it better, rather than saying, you do this. It's, when this happens, I feel, and what I need is this. Not, you do this and you make me feel this way. People don't make us feel. We decide how we feel. People can hurt us, but they don't make us. We have ownership of that. We can decide how we react. That's a difficult concept for a lot of us to be able to grasp, that we can decide how we feel. But there again, if our stress tank is filling up, it's very tough to think logically. So we want to decompress. Always staying in the green to maybe edging into the yellow zone when we're in tough conversations. We also want to make sure that we're taking turns with our partner. It's not just one person talking, but it's both people sharing back and forth. If you're struggling with that, a really great technique that we often coach people on is called talk time. And for talk time, it's wonderful because what happens is we are quiet and we just listen to our partner. Set the timer on your phone and you talk for 3 minutes. Timer goes off, your partner talks for 3 minutes, and then you don't have a chance to rebut. You're just listening fully. So you're fully present when your partner is speaking. I know with me, when I get into a tough discussion, I'm not going to call it an argument, but truth is, when we do get into these tough spots, it's very difficult for me to stop and listen to the other person because my mind is jumping ahead. I'm trying to think of, but what could I say to justify my position? So with talk time, it removes that. We're not going to have the opportunity in that discussion to be able to rebut or explain ourselves. We're just listening to how our partner feels and what it is that is bothering them. So tuck that away. Talk time might be something you want to try. Stonewalling. A lot of us do that, where we just don't talk about it. We don't talk about it. Okay, it really upset us and we're not going to talk about it. And we just turn away and we don't discuss it. Sometimes this goes on for days. I've heard people going, some people even weeks, where they just stop talking. I'm not really sure how they're going to solve their problem if they're not talking, but some people have that belief that time will heal. But if we're stonewalling, it's like sweeping things under the rug, and we'll just ignore them. You keep sweeping them under the rug, eventually you're going to trip over the rug. So stonewalling is not a good communication technique. Maybe it gets the point across that we're upset, but it doesn't resolve the issue. So we encourage you to negotiate, to talk, to get things out and share how you're feeling and what you would prefer. Here goes another one that sometimes is very tough. It's stop with the yelling. We're not going to win a battle by seeing who's the loudest. So the yelling is never helpful. It just increases our stress, brings us up into the red zone, and then we say things that we don't really mean and say hurtful things, and the communication just falls apart. Here's another time when we call a timeout. It's not going well, we'll call a timeout, we'll decompress, and we'll come back to it. That's the new rule. We're not going to do this anymore. We're going to stop. When that starts happening, call the timeout and stop. A lot of couples like to have, and we ask people to have a code word that you can use when you're feeling that stress tank rising up, and you know that it's too high. You're going to be yelling, you're going to name calling, that's going to be inevitable. Call the timeout, have a code word. Usually people think of something silly because we know that humor does break the tension. So give that one a try. A lot of people for some reason use food for their code word, but other people don't need to know what it is. You can use your code word, and your children, or if you're out in public, it's a really good thing to use. And it also bonds us because we have that kind of inside joke we both know. Call the timeout, use a code word. The last one is probably one of the most difficult things, and that's to come up with a compromise. If you can come up with a win-win where you both can get something from the situation, then that's ideal. But realistically, that doesn't always happen. If we'd stayed in the yellow to green zone, we know that we're not being hurtful, so we can give and take. And we might decide, we're going to go with your plan this time, next time it'll be mine. So we work out something. If it win-win's perfect. If we can figure out a way where we can both get what we desire, that's perfect. Maybe not. Maybe we can't do that. So look for a way that you can compromise and be gracious about it. When we decide to compromise, we give with a glad heart. If we're giving grudgingly, then we're going to be carrying that around with us, and it's not going to be healthy for the relationship. If you've decided that you're going to give up your position, then we do that with the idea that it's done and it's over, and we're not going to hold a grudge or bring it up again in another argument. These are tough concepts, and there are lots of other things that you can do to improve the way you negotiate and you communicate. But these few tips, I think, can really be beneficial. I didn't mention the compliment sandwich. You've probably heard of that, where when we're delivering a tough topic, we remind our partner and ourselves of something wonderful that we appreciate. Then we talk about the thing that we really want to change or improve upon. And then again, we end on a topic that is appreciative and that we love about our partner, so that it's much easier to digest that tough part when we do know that we're also appreciated. It also helps us to remember those things that we love about our partner. When we're preparing a compliment sandwich, we have to stop and think of two things that are wonderful for every one thing that we would like to change. Really, really helpful for us all, and puts us in that more balanced perspective of our relationship. Lots of things that we can do to improve relationships. One really good resource, 7 Principles to Make a Marriage Work. Really excellent resource. You don't have to be married to use that resource. There are lots of ideas in there that work for couples, whether you're just dating, whether you're formally married, whatever. Don't get put off by the title. We're preparing these videos for people to improve their mental fitness, and part of mental fitness is getting along well with your partner and the ones you love. So I hope you found this helpful. If you have, click subscribe or leave a comment. We'd be happy to pass on more resources, or we might even use your idea for a video in the future. Take care out there.